Woodstock and where we're at with Woodstock 50. So John Fogerty spoke to Rolling Stone magazine, and Michael Lang sent out a direct email to the Woodstock fans, people who have essentially signed up to get notified when the tickets are going to go on. Let's go with Fogerty's first, because I think that, first of all, John seems to be just like an outstanding guy. Second of all, I don't understand the perceived notion that the festival is canceled. I mean, it took me literally an hour and a half from the time I heard that the festival was canceled to understand that the festival is actually not canceled. It's not too difficult. And I'm not a journalist. I'm not a, but you go and you read every article, and here we are like 2 days later, and they're still saying the festival is canceled to people. I don't understand that whatsoever. The festival is on. It's on. Like, am I sitting here going, the festival is happening for sure? No. This could be Fire Festival 2019. I've been saying that from the beginning. But to sit here and pretend like the organizers of the festivals are saying that the festival is not on. The festival is on, friends. It's not that it's not happening. And we'll back that up with what Michael Lang said. Now, you can be like, well, Michael Lang is a liar. He's not going to pull it off. Well, okay. That's totally fair. Not going to argue with you. I put this festival at 50-50, whether it's actually going to happen or not. But essentially, it's just going to depend on if an investor comes in or not. John says, and I quote here, "I wouldn't want to speculate. I'm just a guy who plays guitar and is ready to show up. It's not my job to know about the selection of artists or permits, but it is a shame if it's canceled." The big postponement announcement, as you know, came from Dentsu, who said that the festival was canceled. And again, I said I can't understand how just a financier is going to go out and cancel a festival. I'll back that up with Michael's thing. But to go on to what Fogerty said, which is that he has already been paid in advance. And he said that if the festival is indeed canceled, he will, quote, donate to his favorite cause, which is military veterans. He says, and I quote here, "I'm old-fashioned America. I hate to be paid for doing nothing, so I would imagine donating it to a good cause. That would be the best use of the funds." He said that the festival did look a little shaky there at times, that he had heard about some of the permit issues and some of the other things going on, so he's not totally surprised. And again, if you follow the morning show, the Anthony Vlogs, you'll see that we've been tracking all of this process throughout the whole way, but he wishes that it will still go on. I did find this to be really cool. The guitar he played, a Rickenbacker, which he played at the original Woodstock after the Grateful Dead wouldn't get off the stage, and he was there until all hours of the night playing. His wife actually tracked down and bought off a collector and gave it to him as a Christmas gift 2 or 3 years ago, back in 2016. How nice is that? So the original guitar he played during the festival in '69, she went out and tracked it down from a collector, bought it, and gave it back to John. And he was planning on playing that guitar and the same 11 songs that he played at Woodstock '69 at Woodstock 2019. Now, doesn't that break your heart to hear that? Like, don't you want to hear that story come to its completion of, and he got on stage and he played the same guitar and the same 11 songs 50 years later? Like, such a wonderful story. Like, that's such a wonderful story, which is why I think the thing in the press right now is that the thing is not happening is because it's heartbreak and it's negative. And if we know what gets clicks and what sells, that's negativity. I'd rather tell you what's exactly going on than worry about getting a couple more clicks here or there. That doesn't really matter to me. But that is big time matters to a lot of the outlets that are pushing the narrative that the thing is canceled. It's easier to sell. And by the way, we all want Woodstock to be successful. It's a part of Americana, which is why the negative side of the story sells so much, because it's heartbreaking. It's like, like, did people really care about Fire Festival? Kind of. Did people really watch the Fire Festival documentary on Netflix to see the whole thing crash and burn? Yup. More people watched that story than cared initially about the festival to begin with. And I've compared this thing to Fire Festival, and I stand by that. And what's interesting is if you saw the Fire Festival documentary, they essentially said in the documentary, like, look at Woodstock. Woodstock was in question the whole way. And they were right. And they thought they would be like Woodstock, where they could just kind of pull it off somehow in the end. Here's what Michael Lang had to say in an email to people who signed up for ticket updates. Dear Woodstock friends, it seems in a way that history is repeating itself. In July of 1969, we lost our site in Wallkill, and with only a month to go, we managed to move to Bethel. Woodstock was going to happen no matter what. This time around, Woodstock's new home, Dix and Watkins Glen, New York, and New York State have been really wonderful. I went door to door to the neighbors. Some remembered Summer Jam back in 73 and were worried about history repeating itself. But they opened their doors to us and we talked it out. Many of those people have reached out over the last 24 hours with messages of hope and encouragement. The venue, Watkins Glen International, have been totally supportive and professional. Yesterday, our financial partner, Dentsu Aegis, made the decision to pull out and informed us they were canceling the festival at the same time that they let the press release go. We have yet to understand why they would try to prevent the festival from happening by seemingly undermining us in this way. It is one thing to decide for oneself that it is best to move on, but it is entirely another thing to try and close the door on us. I'm going to take a second here just to comment on that. I actually couldn't agree with Michael Lang more here. Having seen a lot of productions go down and a lot of different entities and financiers and all that kind of stuff, I see a little bit of that stuff. You know, again, like I said, I've been saying, finance people pull out all the time to go ahead and take the next step and say that it's canceled. And by the way, it is not a nice move, and this happens in business all the time, but it is not a nice move to let somebody know and let the public know at the same time. You're essentially communicating to them that you're trying to stop this because you're not giving them enough time to react. Now, maybe they did. Maybe he's bending the truth here because he did supposedly, according to Billboard, reach out to Live Nation and AEG to try and get them to throw some money into the festival. And they turned him down, supposedly, according to sources with Billboard. So maybe he did have a warning. And maybe they were like, hey, we're going to put this out. And then they put it out. So maybe it did happen that way, just to play devil's advocate for Dentsu here. But I've seen it happen a lot in the past. It's actually happened to me when I was working for, I'll tell you, I was working for the New York Islanders at the time. And our radio partner at the time decided that they were going to go and carry another team. And we were informed 3 minutes before the press release hit the air. And I was an intern back then. I'd never seen things go crazy, like just absolutely crazy. You know, they didn't give us warning. Again, you need time to process. All right, what's our next move? What's our response going to be? They don't leave you with any of those options. So that's exactly what happened here. It appears. Continuing with the letter. Yesterday, I couldn't help but relive that moment 50 years ago. It was deja vu all over again. Supporting the principles of activism and sustainability are too important to be derailed by short-sighted partners. We continue our work with New York State, Schuyler County, and various parties to keep things on track. Woodstock never belonged to Dentsu, so they don't have the right to cancel it. Woodstock belongs to the people, and it always will. We don't give up, and Woodstock 50 will take place and will be a blast. Thanks for listening, Michael. Could be, you know, again, the weird thing is you sit there and you look at it and go, this guy is crazy. There's no way this is going to go down. This is Fire Festival 2019. But then you look at the parallels between this and Woodstock 69, and they're all but essentially similar. Does this have the comeback story that it had in 69? Is this that Rocky 15 rounds, you know, going to get the knockout? Is Woodstock going to win out overall? We'll keep our eye on it. But like I said on previous shows, it seems like they're one big investment away from being able to cross the finish line. Again, their biggest expense, paying the artists, is going to be the difference. Like, that's already been done. Now, supposedly they're at like a $30 million overall what it costs for the talent, supposedly. And the ticket prices were supposedly, again, this is only things that we can assume, $450. Now, we're assuming that was for the whole 3 days. So if you base this assumption on they're sticking with 100,000 people. The ticket price is going to be $450, and it's good for all 3 days. That puts you at like $33 million. So for investors, as scary as a proposition as this is, and where to find hotels and everything like that, I still think that Woodstock sells out if it goes on sale prior to all this mess. Prior to all this, I think Woodstock sells out even at $450 a ticket, even at $100. Like, I think it sells out. Ticket brokers and actual fans would scoop that all up quite quickly. There are more, Jay-Z and Dead & Company alone, and you're done. You could easily find 100,000 people in this area to make that trek up there and pay $450. That's easy. So again, there's a lot of money to be made here, and I think the right and smart investor will find that. If it's true that Live Nation and AEG did back out, that's a little scary, but because they should be able to see the value in this. Then there's something really going on behind the scenes and something really wrong. But if that's not entirely true, or they didn't like the return or whatever, that could have been the reason as well. We'll have to wait and see. But there's no doubt about it, a lawsuit here waiting to happen, because the damages incurred by this are going to affect this festival. Because if you go out and you ask people, I bet you 9 out of 10 people will just say, oh, it's canceled. If you ask 10 people, is Woodstock going on or is it canceled? I bet you 9 of them say it's canceled. People just don't know that it's just not, because the way the world works, when Dentsu set out that press release, every outlet took it as word and ran with it. And so that was the only thing said. And so far, including Rolling Stone and you name all the big outlets, it feels like us and a couple of other little ones, the Poughkeepsie Journal, are the only ones that are like, hey, there's another side to this story. Look at what Michael Lang is saying. It's still on. There's not a lot of people telling that narrative right now. So we'll keep our eye on it.